And we're back talking about Pisces, the sign of Pisces. Reading from Alan Leo's book, it's chapter 15, titled The Individual and Personal Character of the Sign Pisces. This is the last sign of the zodiac, the sign of the fishes. It is the last of the watery and mutable signs. Its symbol represents two fishes tied together, one swimming in one direction and the other in the opposite. And by the way, that you can learn a lot if you're new to astrology by studying the signs, the symbols, the fishes. I mean, I could do hours and hours of lectures based on just the symbol, breaking down the symbols alone. Its symbol represents two fishes tied together, one swimming in one direction and the other in the opposite. And that's something there you can see right there in that symbol, that the two fishes swimming in opposite directions. That's Pisces. Pisces energy is almost going in opposite directions simultaneously. In some respects, this sign represents the failures of humanity. And for this reason, it is somewhat difficult to express all that is conveyed in the symbol of this sign. Not off to a good start, Pisces. There can be no such thing as a real failure, but if we were to think of a progression through all the signs and then think of the sign Pisces as representing on the one hand those who had succeeded in extracting the virtue from each, and on the other hand those who have had failed to accomplish, we might obtain some idea of what is meant by the term often applied to this sign of self-undoing. Self-undoing, self-sabotage, all of this has to do with Pisces. I have Neptune conjunct the South Node in the 12th house, and lots of aspects to Neptune, and I have underwent self-sabotage many times in my life. And I don't really blame myself, though. So anyone out there watching this that is a Pisces or has Pisces, I wouldn't blame yourself either. Especially when you're younger, you don't realize these things. Sometimes it's very difficult not to go through this self-undoing because of the feelings that you have, etc. They're hard to overcome. We do get apparent failures in life indicated by this sign, and these are the persons who may be said to live an entirely personal life to the total exclusion of the individual, their consciousness, as it were, functioning only on the very lowest levels of manifested life. They are then over restless and over anxious, lacking life and energy, apparently undecided how to act, and always waiting for an opportunity. I mean, this is true. We also see very successful Pisces people with Pisces energy. Tony Robbins is a sun in Pisces. People like that. If you can find, I mean, as it says here, like if you are decided on how to act and you're not waiting for an opportunity, you're not thinking like that, because that's what really kills you. I mean, it's not always your fault. Or too, like I remember always talking in this one field, always talking about I'm moving and I'm going to get a job. And I remember I applied and I interviewed and I can never make it work. And I remember this guy I was living with, he just flat out told me, he's like, I would talk about it. He's like, Joe, you're never getting the job ever. And he was already mad at me, and he just said that flat out. It really was annoying, but he was right. He was a very practical person. He was an engineer. I mean, he did smoke weed every day, so he had that kind of like Pisces thing going. But he's one of those guys that could smoke weed and work and go to work. I could never do that. But yeah, it's like stuff like that. Like it just not realizing that I wasn't really doing anything. I was waiting for this opportunity. It was never going to happen. And I spent years in that state. It is exceedingly difficult to interpret this sign with any degree of clearness, for not 1 in 50 born in it will ever admit his own character. Like I said, I was in denial for sure. I think even going to college, stuff like that, like people going to college for 10 years, etc. And they're just not really doing anything, just living in that state, which is a beautiful state to live in. Don't get me wrong, but it can cause a lot of problems down the road. They nearly always pretend to be something different from what they really are, and as they are usually hampered with an overabundance of self-esteem and approbativeness combined, it becomes very difficult for them to admit their failings. A considerable amount of the personal Pisces character appears to arise from a lack of decision and being very receptive to all the conditions that are around them. They find it very difficult to become fully individualized, and therefore are usually a bundle of inconsistencies tied with the cord of discontent. There are more mediums born in this sign than in any others put together. In fact, they are so very mediumistic that they rarely know themselves from other people and are ever ready to attribute their failings to the conditions that are around them. They attribute them to the conditions around them because they are so mediumistic or sensitive. I do that as well. A lack of decision making. If there's a decision to be made, there's actually other things in the chart. Like there's an aspect called a septile. If you have any 51 degrees in your chart, seems to be an aspect that really makes it difficult. Like there's a decision in the life that has to be made, and it's very difficult to make. And you can also look at the inconjuncts for that indecision as well, or any Virgo. Or Scorpio, really, for that matter. They are more easily obsessed than any of the other types and are so exceedingly psychic and receptive as to draw many spirits around them who live quite peacefully in their floating aura. Draw many spirits around them. Interesting. Possessing very strong emotions, they become much attached to their friends, quietly accepting their advice and opinion, and endeavoring to act upon it whenever it is convenient. They are very changeable and imaginative, or probably what is more correct, fanciful, and love to live in a world of romance. They are fond of sensational novels and greedily devour everything of an exciting nature. Some of the worst types are apt to take to drink under any severe anxiety and worry, to give away to the worst forms of temptation. Yeah, alcoholism, addiction, very tough Pisces energy. And I always say, based to that end, you really got to be spiritual. If you have any type of Pisces energy and you're dealing with drugs and alcohol, you really got to be spiritual. You got to get addicted to spirituality. You got to get addicted to these ethereal spaces that you can find yourselves in without drugs and alcohol. I mean, you don't need to, but that's what I would do. That's what has helped me and other people that I know. Alcohol is a shortcut. Alcohol and drugs are a shortcut to get into that space because it takes work. When becoming individualized and more self-controlled, they are very patient, gentle, and submissive persons, possessing a quiet understanding. As they awaken and unfold, they become deeply interested in occult phenomena. Their character, as it grows, becomes more confiding, more trustful, but rarely self-reliant. Although they are capable of being very honest, amiable, loving, and kind, with an abundance of sympathy, especially to all dumb animals. A Pisces person can do really well if they find the right partner to that end as well. This idea of not being self-reliant. If they find the right partner to work with, that they can rely on them a lot, They're ever apt to be more timid than bold, and it will usually be found that where self-esteem is lacking, approbativeness will take its place, and vice versa. It is essential that they live pure and clean lives, as they are more magnetic and liable to absorb evil influences than any of the other signs. The dualistic nature of Pisces makes it very difficult to extract the good from that which appears bad. They love roaming about, are sometimes rather fastidious, and too fond of detail, but are, however, very hospitable and seek to do all in their power to make those dependent on them comfortable and happy. As caterers, hotel proprietors, nurses, and those who minister to the welfare of others generally, they find their forte in life. Virgo is the opposite, can be very service oriented in the, as he says here, in the food industry, hotel industry, medical field. The Pisces individuals seem to be more liable to consumption than the other mutable signs, but they seem to cause this themselves by despondency and melancholia. When worried, their digestive conditions are disordered, and this produces many other troubles. Through being overanxious and worrying, they often weaken their system and suffer from functional disorders. To preserve their health, they should be very cleanly in their habits, avoiding all impure magnetisms and infectious diseases. The Pisceans are generally fond of the sea, and they succeed best in life in all pursuits connected with the sea or water. And as sea captains or naval men, they are in the right vocation. They're good travelers and advanced agents. They make good novelists, bookkeepers, and accountants, and are successful as painters and any employment that brings some kind of change, or where attention to details is necessary, and where they may complete the work of others. It would be difficult to find the word that would express the Pisces individual, excepting it be that they are excellent mediums and are able to receive some of the impressions coming from the preceding signs. I've had a few Sun in Virgo, Moon in Pisces, people born in the full moon of Virgo and Pisces, and they were amazing people. I'm not saying they're like perfect, but just their personality, I would say, was pretty amazing, very magnetic. And I'm never going to see them again, unfortunately. But they did have their problems, so I'm not sure that would have been good if they weren't open to changing or being helped. They are emotional and secretive, patient and meditative, kind and generous, imitative, receptive, and peaceful when living up to the best of their nature. They seem to possess a peculiar understanding of their own and love to investigate phenomena. They are nearly all more or less drawn to spiritualism or the investigation of the unseen. If it be true that they come under the planet Neptune, which is supposed to govern Pisces to a considerable extent, then it is not to be wondered at that the sign is difficult to express. But as there are extremes in all signs, we may expect in this, as in the others, some very good and also some weak characters. In the foregoing chapters, the nature of the sun's influence while vitalizing each sign of the zodiac has been given for each of the 12 months of the year, and the same delineations, when modified, will also give a description of the personality when the moon is being carried through either of the signs, as will be explained in the succeeding chapters. He's talking about the term individuality that he uses in all the previous descriptions. The sun represents to us the pure mind, or what is termed in Sanskrit manas. It is the human portion, as distinct from the animal. The personality, as represented by the moon, is what is known as in the Eastern philosophy as kama manas, or the mind linked with desire, generally known as the animal man. And that's where he leaves us with. The moon, the mind linked with desire. I have to think about that one. So I'll leave you there to think about that. And that's Pisces. And thanks for watching.